ਚੈਨਲ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਵੇਖਦੇ ਵਿਊਅਰਸ ਦਾ ਸਵਾਗਤ ਹੈ। ਮੈਂ ਹਾਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਆਪਣੀ ਸੁਖੀ ਤੇ ਅੱਜ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਇੱਕ ਬ੍ਰੇਕਿੰਗ ਐਕਸਕਲੂਸਿਵ ਇੰਟਰਵਿਊ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਏ ਹਾਂ ਤੇ ਇਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਾਡੇ ਸਟੂਡੀਓ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਅੱਜ ਬਹੁਤ ਖਾਸ ਮਹਿਮਾਨ ਪਹੁੰਚੇ ਹੋਏ ਆ ਐਂਡ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਬਹੁਤ ਮਾਣ ਵਾਲੀ ਗੱਲ ਹੈ ਵੀ ਇੱਥੇ ਸਟੂਡੀਓ ਆਏ ਹੋਏ ਨੇ ਸੋਲਿਸਿਟਰ ਜਨਰਲ ਆਫ BC ਆਨਰੇਬਲ ਮਾਈਕ ਮੋਰਿਸ ਤੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਅੱਜ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰਨੀ ਆ ਜੋ ਕਿ BC ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕ੍ਰਾਈਮ ਰੇਟਸ ਹੋਇਆ ਕਈ ਬਹੁਤ ਗਲਤ ਫਹਿਮੀ ਆਪ ਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਸਾਡੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕ੍ਰਾਈਮ ਰੇਟਸ ਬਹੁਤ ਵੱਧ ਰਹੇ ਆ ਜਾਂ ਕੋਈ ਸ਼ਹਿਰ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੋਰਾਂ ਸ਼ਹਿਰਾਂ ਨਾਲੋਂ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਕ੍ਰਾਈਮ ਰੇਟਸ ਆ ਬਟ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕੁਛ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਭੁਲੇਖੇ ਦੂਰ ਕਰਨਾ ਆ ਤੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਪਲਾਨਸ ਦੇ ਵਿਜ਼ਨਸ ਆ BC ਵਾਸਤੇ ਜੋ ਕ੍ਰਾਈਮ ਰੇਟਸ ਗੈਂਗਸ ਤੇ ਗਨਸ ਬਾਰੇ ਆ ਉਹਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਵੀ ਇਹ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰਨਗੇ ਸੋ ਆਓ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਅਸੀਂ ਸਵਾਗਤ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਕਰਾਈਏ ਤੇ ਸਾਡੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਹੈ ਅੱਜ ਇੰਗਲਿਸ਼ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਚੱਲੂਗੀ ਤੇ ਕੋਈ ਵੀ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਕੁਐਸਚਨਸ ਹੋਏ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਬਾਅਦ 'ਚ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਸੰਪਰਕ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ ਤੇ ਉਹਦਾ ਵੀ ਇਨਫੋਰਮੇਸ਼ਨ ਅਸੀਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਅੱਗੇ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਹਾਂ Honorable Mike Morris, it's an honor to have you in our studio. Thank you for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So let's start off with our viewers. Obviously, they're going to want to know about your background. So obviously, your background was with the RCMP. You did that for over, 32 years. And what made you decide that you wanted to, sort of elaborate yourself into something like this?
Well, as I've told several people, politics was never really in my bucket list of things to do.
Never?
Okay. No. I joined the RCMP in 1973.
Wow.
And I spent 32 years. And the last 10 years I was in the force, I was a senior officer in charge of the northern three-quarters of BC and part of the overall provincial division management team for the force. So I retired in early 2005. And I became an adjudicator mediator with the Health Professions Review Board. And long about January of 2013, somebody approached me and asked if I would consider running. And as I was about to say no, they said, don't, just think about it. And so I couldn't think of a legitimate reason to say no, and I'm really glad I didn't. And I think with the experience that I have, the Solicitor General's role in Public Safety Minister, I think is a good fit.
Yes.
I understand public safety, and after that many years in the force, I've worked with coroners and I've worked with corrections and all the other components of the ministry. So, I'm very pleased with the role that I have.
That's great, and it's great to see someone with that much experience that's out there and that's definitely bringing change into the community. So crime is a hot topic, especially in BC and in Surrey as well. But we read about it, we hear about it in the media. Obviously we're in the media sector as well. We present these stories because we hear about them, we see them, and it's quite alarming. But how are we compared to the other provinces in Canada? So BC compared to the rest of Canada?
The trend overall right across Canada, the crime rate has been going down for the past 20 to 30 years, actually.
Wow.
Particularly the violent crime rate.
Right.
But, it's blipped in the last year or two, and it's starting to increase again. But not only in British Columbia, we're seeing that right across the board. We're seeing that in many other communities, Toronto, Winnipeg. We're seeing that south of the border, too, in the United States in many communities. So,
yes.
So it is concerning to us, and, I don't know exactly what the cause of it is. In British Columbia, it's centered around street-level drug trade and those kinds of issues. But overall, the trend is still, other than these little blips in the statistical data, the trend still is tendencing downwards in many respects, but we just have to concentrate on those areas that are going up.
Right, and that was actually my next question is how do you pinpoint the root causes of crime? Do you have a graph or demographics, or is there any way that you're able to kind of distinguish between the different causes of crimes?
Yeah, so a large part of the crime in British Columbia and right across Canada for that matter is centered around street-level drug trade.
Right.
So it's all these young, mostly males, that are getting involved in that, thinking that they're going to make a quick buck and get involved, and they're selling drugs, and they get into turf wars, and that's where the guns get involved and whatnot. But the alarming part of it is a lot of these young guys don't realize that it's a short life as a gangster.
It is.
And they commit these crimes, and they shoot or try and shoot their opponents in quiet residential areas or around elementary schools and whatnot. And that certainly gets the attention of the police. and the police identify who these individuals are at a very early stage.
Great.
The complexities come from the investigative side. So I go back to a statement that a Supreme Court justice made a number of years ago at a conference back in Eastern Canada, where he said the main event is no longer the guilt or innocence of an accused. The main event is the integrity of the investigation. And that integrity of the investigation transcends down into the integrity of the witnesses, the victims, everybody that's involved, including the police officers. So when the police investigate a file, they have to make sure they do it correctly right from start to finish to avoid having that charge thrown out in court. So very complex. And, whether it's gang investigations or whether it's homicide investigations, they have to be on their game in order to secure prosecutions at the end of the day.
So it's a very long process, very detail oriented. How long, can an investigation take up to?
Well, I'm aware of investigations that have taken years.
Wow.
Depending on the complexities of the case. With the advent of DNA and that science is improving on a regular basis, that has really helped police investigations to a large degree. And so that's helped shorten a lot of the investigations.
Okay, good.
But, there's technical challenges in today's world with cell phone use and computer data and whatnot, which makes it difficult. It's not impossible, but it makes it difficult for police investigations.
Right. So what is the provincial government doing to address the situation? Like, is there any measures that are being taken drastically or?
Yeah, we have an organization or a unit in British Columbia we call CFSEU. So it's a Combined Forces Special Enforcement Unit, and it's comprised of all the police departments in British Columbia. The provincial government funds it to the tune of about $60 million a year.
Wow.
And just recently, the Premier announced we added $23 million to it in April to put 2 more teams into that.
Okay.
And those teams are a combination of covert and overt operations. So we have uniformed people and we have undercover people involved in that and all kinds of technical investigative aids that we use. And we identify who the main prolific offenders are throughout British Columbia, and it always boils down to a small number. So we're not talking about thousands, we're talking about dozens or perhaps maybe a few hundred throughout the province. And so we target those individuals, and we've been quite successful with that. We've made some arrests recently, and we've seized a large quantity of drugs and weapons and cash over the past couple of years with that. So we are making progress with it, and we are putting guys in jail.
That's great. We have been noticing a quite large presence of the CFSEU and even more police, the RCMP, on the roads. So that's increased quite a bit during the last few months. Is there, another operation that where you're having more of that presence? And obviously, is it being effective?
Well, it has been effective, and of course, Surrey asked for 100 new bodies, 100 more police officers early in 2015, I believe it was. They're all on the ground now. All those boots are filled and they're on the ground in Surrey. They've asked for an additional 16, I believe, for 2016, and that's in the process. So, good comments from different folks in the community here. They've never seen so many policemen standing on the street corners, and that's what it's all about. That's what makes a safe community. Or that's one of the components of a safe community. Yeah. The main component of a safe community is the public becoming engaged and helping the police out.
Yes, great. We as a Punjabi media outlet, we hear a lot of stats saying that there's a lot of Indo-Canadians that are involved in crime. Do you have any of those stats that you're able to confirm that, and especially in Surrey?
Yeah, there's various ethnic groups involved in criminal activity in the province, but the South Asian community is quite predominant throughout the Lower Mainland here. Not the only ones. There's other ethnicities involved as well, but it's something that is a concern, and it's something that I'm hoping that families will take notice of that, and families can step in and try and keep their brother or their son or their uncle from getting more involved in crime. We've got an End Gang Life program that's been very successful. It's part of CFSEU's program, and that's where we have officers going and sitting down with these guys and said, listen, there's an alternative. There's an alternative to going to jail or ultimately end up with a toe tag on in some morgue somewhere because of the criminal activity that they're involved in. It's a quick, something think it's a quick trip to get a bunch of cash and a fancy car.
Exactly, yeah.
And but it's not. It's a quick trip to jail, or it's a quick trip to the morgue ultimately, because these guys end their life at a very early stage.
It's pretty sad, those statistics. Now, what are some signs that parents can look for, or family or even friends, as flags that, you know, there may be a chance that, you know, my son, my friend, my brother may be involved in any type of gang activity?
Yeah, you know, a lot of these young guys live a pretty lavish lifestyle. So if you've got a son or somebody in your family that ends up spending money that you wonder where he's getting it from, he's got some extra jewelry that can't be accounted for, he's got fancier clothes, he's spending a lot of time away from home, he's perhaps acquired a vehicle that nobody knows how he acquired the vehicle, because it's, you know, it might be a Cadillac, it might be some kind of an SUV that, and he's got no known means of income. Those are all good indications. And oftentimes parents are very reluctant because it's their son.
That was my next question.
Yeah, you know, and I'm encouraging parents to get involved with your children, and to, if you see that, go and talk to somebody. You know, you don't have to talk to the police, but go and talk to somebody to express your thoughts and concerns, and maybe get your a family member some help before it becomes too late.
Yeah. And again, you know, I think it does boil down to parents not wanting to accept it, or afraid that if I go and approach someone, you know, what if they start investigating my child, and what if I land him into deeper trouble? When someone comes to you with that concern, does it get documented? You know, do you start your own investigation, or are they able to do that anonymously?
Yeah, well, no, they can. So, you know, I go back to my policing days, and I would get confidential information on a regular basis from various people, and people would come and say, listen, I think my son is doing this, but I don't want him to find out. And so my response in a lot of cases, you know, if the evidence that individual is bringing forward was critical in opening up an investigation and making it become more public, I would show them the alternative. I say, well, you are really helping your son.
Yeah.
Even though you think that, you know, you want to keep the information confidential, by being more overt and by coming out and giving the police all of the pertinent information so that we can charge the individual and find some route to rehabilitate him and get him out of that life, that might be the easiest solution, because it's hard to get out of gang life unless you're assisted by the police, you know, or some other public agency.
Right. With your background in policing, with your CMP, do you have any, you know, like, you know, I guess success stories where you did see someone from a young age being involved in criminal activity, whether it was gangs or anything else, that were able to, you know, just leave that lifestyle behind and actually become a positive individual?
I'm going to use my own self as an example. Yeah, you know, I grew up with a life, you know, in a broken home, and associated with characters of questionable character, I guess, to put it that way.
Right.
I was about 14 years of age, and a group of folks I was hanging around with wanted to go and pull an armed robbery.
Oh, wow.
And they showed up at my house, and they had a gun wrapped up in a rag, and I made some lame excuse why I couldn't go, and they were in jail about a half hour later. There was a gentleman there that we were living in we were on social assistance at the time, and the gentleman that ran the complex that we're in, I think he recognized that maybe I was worth saving, and he mentored me for a period of time and took me over that hump. And that led, in my career, I came across several situations like that where I helped and mentored other individuals that I saw were right on that cusp of that going right or wrong. And I can't emphasize enough the opportunity, if you have an opportunity to mentor somebody and bring them over and to make sure that they start living a healthy lifestyle and productive lifestyle and get them out of that crime, I think we should be doing more of that. And there's a lot of people out there, doesn't matter whether it's in the South Asian community or where they are, that will recognize somebody that requires that assistance. And I think we need to do more of that.
Yeah, it's definitely important.
Yep.
That's great. So as far as policing, the CFSEU, can we expect to see a lot more different programs implemented and a lot more presence in the coming months, years?
Yeah, so with the $23 million, we're adding 2 more teams, and that's going to be a significant contribution to our gang investigations, not only in Surrey and the Lower Mainland, but throughout British Columbia. And so I think we'll see more drugs seized and more cash and more people being charged and going through the system, particularly now with the help of the 2 full-time prosecutors.
Yep.
The other thing that we do well in BC, in my estimation, based on my previous experience, is the integration of all the police services that we have in the Lower Mainland and throughout BC. We've got several independent forces, but we all work collectively together. So regardless of what shoulder patch you might have on your shoulder, we all work together. We have one database that the policemen share information right across the province on, which is fundamentally, it's been a great success story for successful conclusions to investigations and whatnot. So we work well integrated, and we're going to continue to do that.
That's great.
Yeah.
It's wonderful to see that this approach is being taken. We were talking earlier, and I think there is the stereotype that, Surrey's got a high criminal, the gangs and whatnot. But you were telling me it was actually quite contrary to that.
Surrey is a very safe community to live in, and BC is a very safe jurisdiction to live in, and Canada is a safe jurisdiction, believe it or not, in comparison to the world. Surrey, the crime rate in Surrey is probably mid-level in the province in comparison to many other jurisdictions that we have here.
Well, that's great
for some reason, it gets highlighted a little bit more in some areas. Yeah. But Surrey is a safe jurisdiction, and the people should feel safe to walk around. We do have gang activity. We do have those shootings that take place in Surrey and other communities throughout the province. CFSAU know the individuals. And it's just, like I said, the integrity of the investigation. So they have to make sure they do things right in order to successfully arrest that individual and put them in jail.
But we can be rest assured that definitely measures are being taken to make the streets a lot safer.
Measures are being taken, and we have had some successes.
That's great. What message would you like to convey to the community today?
Get involved. The community is as safe as you want to make it. The police are a resource in the community, as are the courts, as are social services, and all the other agencies that assist here. But get involved. Don't be afraid to step up to the plate. Don't be afraid to phone some of the resources that we have, whether it be police or whatnot, and provide them with the information that they can use in order to help make your community safe. But overall, it's our responsibility to make our communities as safe as we can make them.
It was a great honor having this conversation with you. Thank you for everything you do. And we hope to see you back on the show with more positive updates, lower numbers very soon. And again, thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
ਉਮੀਦ ਕਰਦੀ ਹਾਂ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਸਾਡੀ ਐਕਸਕਲੂਸਿਵ ਇੰਟਰਵਿਊ ਸੀ ਅੱਜ ਆਨਰੇਬਲ ਮਾਈਕ ਮੋਰਿਸ ਨਾਲ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਪਸੰਦ ਆਈ ਹੋਵੇਗੀ ਤੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਹ ਵੀ ਉਮੀਦ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਵੀ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਇਹ ਨੰਬਰਸ ਆ ਜੋ ਇਹ ਦੱਸ ਰਹੇ ਆ ਕਿ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਦੀ ਪ੍ਰੈਜ਼ੈਂਸ ਕਾਫੀ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਵੱਧ ਰਹੀ ਆ BC ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਸਪੈਸ਼ਲ ਗੈਂਗਸ ਯੂਨਿਟ ਆ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਵੀ ਸੋ ਵਾਕਿਆ Surrey ਤੇ BC ਦੇ ਨੰਬਰਸ ਘੱਟ ਜਾ ਰਹੇ ਆ ਗਵਰਨਮੈਂਟ ਸਾਡੀ ਉਪਰਾਲਾ ਚੁੱਕਦੀ ਆ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਇਹ ਸਟਰੀਟਸ ਸੇਫ ਕਰਨ ਨੂੰ So if you have any questions, if you want to follow up with us, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਫੋਨ ਰਾਹੀਂ ਵੀ ਸੰਪਰਕ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ 604-833-4550 ਜਾਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਈਮੇਲ ਵੀ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ ਮੇਰੀ ਈਮੇਲ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ sukhi SUKHI@channelpunjabi.ca